Thank you for inviting me. I am in Dongmu and I am known as the Second Lord. The fourth Holy Grail battle has just passed, and Uncle Er has just left. This time is really stuck. Just after the end of the fourth Holy Grail war, a young man named Xingyue began to awaken memories from before his reincarnation. What is the first thing to do when traveling to Dongmu City, as I remember a joke from my past life online? Insect killer, save Sakura. Shen Er looked at himself in the mirror. Well, wash and sleep. Ding. Your system has been launched, Sakura. Oni sauce is here to save you. Wait, there's something wrong. Why does this system have a Siri smell? Group ID 837190494 keywords of the novel. Endless story. Starting from type moon without a pop-up window, endless story. Starting from type moon. Download the complete set of TXT, endless story. Starting from type moon's latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Jian Tongshen 2, new book seeks various. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Jian Tongshen 2, new book seeks various. Spring, 1994. Deep mountain town, Higashiki City, Japan. A remote, old, and dark courtyard. This is one of the three royal families, Jian Tongjia. In the spacious and tidy room, the exquisite crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling was not working properly. Only dim moonlight shone through the window and hit the wooden floor. The shadow of the window was stretched by the moonlight on the wooden floor and extended to the door of the room. And the young man, Xingyue, whose shadow was also slanted in by the moonlight stretching on the floor. Late at night, the boy with a blue seaweed head had stood in front of the mirror countless times, lifting his hair and frowning, staring at him with small and large eyes, carefully examining his appearance. MD. This sea leads the way. You really are the second master. Teenager. 7-year-old Xingyue has a bit of a breakdown. Although the memories of his past life have just been restored, the current situation really makes life less joyful. That's right, the boy named Jian Tongshen is a time traveler, and it should be said that a reincarnation is more suitable. However, for the 7 years since his birth, the boy has no memories of his past life, and it wasn't until tonight when he was preparing to sleep that those memories were suddenly awakened. Golden Finger. It hasn't been launched yet, and I don't know if it's available. What if it's different from the previous life's cool article? Shen Er fidgeted with his soft hair, feeling increasingly uncomfortable as he looked at himself in the mirror for some reason. To be honest, it's quite dangerous to say danger in this world. After all, which one is not dangerous in the type moon world? But on the other hand, if you don't do anything and don't die like in FSN, and Ben should be an ordinary person, or even run away from home like the world's probably gone second uncle. Jian Tongyen before, you should be able to live a peaceful life. However, after restoring memory, there is always a sense of discord. My younger sister who had just passed the entrance for over a year, my grandfather who always looked at me unfairly, and my father who still kept an eye on me for a while were all filled with a sense of discord. By the way, I forgot to say that the fourth Holy Grail war has just ended. What? What is the Holy Grail? Don't worry, it's just a toy for Saber to chop, even though it's a little dangerous. Fate line. UBW line. HF line. It's impossible. From the moment my past life memories are awakened, I have nothing to do with these lines. The only one who can be so scumbag is the Second Lord himself. Just hide far away when the time comes. Thinking of this, Shen Er, who was lying on the big bed, inexplicably felt a sense of relief. He was not the original Shen Er, so if he kept a little distance, there should be nothing wrong. That's right. A useless eldest son without magic talent. Whatever, just don't worry about food and clothing. An old monster that has lived for 500 years and forgotten its true purpose. Is it none of my business? Love where you are, and in a safe and secure future, just be able to get money like that cheap dad. There is also the sister whom I had some affection for before my memory awakened. Although it is indeed quite pitiful, and even in terms of time, she had probably spent a whole year in the insect chamber before my memory awakened. Sorry. Sakura. Aoni sauce, my heart is full but my strength is insufficient. Be considerate of Oni sauce, and the opposite Oni sauce will also forgive you for hiding far away. At most, I will give you a bit of condescending love just like before. But don't worry, I won't do anything that's too extreme, brother. Ding. You are the reincarnation of the Fu Su bloodline, and I am your grandfather. The first Emperor Yingzheng. Take your grandfather to participate in the Holy Grail War. The sudden sound in his mind shook Shen Er's spirit. At this moment, Shen Er is like being possessed by a scholar. I will save my sister. I will end the Holy Grail War. At this moment, Shen Er's heart was filled with great enthusiasm, commonly known as a sense of justice bursting, but he quickly realized it. Not quite right. Why does the first emperor speak with a Siri vibe? And it's not male Siri, but female Siri. Just now, you mentioned that you are a reincarnation of the Fusu bloodline. Would that be too absurd? Don't believe it, I am indeed the first emperor of your original world, and you are indeed the reincarnation of the bloodline of Fusu. Well, I don't believe it. If you don't believe me, shout out to Grandpa and see if I can respond. I don't shout. I wandered in the world for 2,000 years just to find you and compensate you, even chasing you into such a different world. But you didn't even want to call me Grandpa. Not very willing. What else is there? Why don't you replace it with Xiao AI, Xiao Du, or Tmall Genie? I'm more patriotic and don't really like Siri. System initial language switch in progress. After hearing such mechanical sounds, Shen Er's eyes couldn't help but twitch twice. Are the current systems all this naughty? Hello, grandson. I am Tmall. Your first emperor grandfather. Shen Er. It's changed, it's your turn to call. Shen Er. Shout quickly. Shen Er. Hurry up, grandson, otherwise grandpa will be gone. Are you finished? Take advantage of this. Shen Er really wants to curse. I am truly the first emperor. Don't be such an unworthy descendant. Call out quickly. How about you just give us a card number? We'll have a meeting later. I'm not quitting gambling, bro. You are definitely not the first emperor, are you? The contract between the system and the host was unsuccessful, and the system is about to be detached, a mechanical sound system that is significantly different from the voice of Tmall Emperor. Sun Tzu, hurry up. Call for Grandpa to come. At this point, Shen Er thought of a possibility, which was that the product was indeed a system, but it needed to be bound. The condition for this binding was to make oneself call Grandpa. Well, forget it, a scholar can be killed but not humiliated. Go to sleep, let's just pretend it never happened. With such thoughts in mind, Shen Er turned around and hugged the blanket, while closing his eyes. Grandpa, Shen Er whispered softly. A man can bend and stretch, and the most important thing is to learn to compromise with life in life. Shen Er comforted himself in his heart like this. Hey, good grandson. System binding successful. Two completely different mechanical sounds echoed simultaneously in Shen Er's mind. This dog system. Shen Er cursed inwardly. Detected that the host has excessive resentment towards the system and is forcibly stripping it. Sun Tzu, call out 2 more times to dispel the resentment. Sloth. Stop playing. Shen Er tightened the blanket and decided not to pay any attention. However, the cold mechanical sound at the beginning of the countdown made Shen Er somewhat conflicted. 10, 9, 8, 7, the next one is better, the next one is better behaved, and the next one can become a soft, sticky, fragrant, and sweet silver-haired and red-eyed beautiful girl. Shen Er comforted himself like this, but will there be another one? 32, Grandpa, Grandpa. I am so cheap. Shen Er cursed himself in his heart. Hey, good grandson, Jian Tongshen, your exclusive Emperor Grandpa system has been successfully bound. Any problems encountered during use will not be refunded. Finally, I wish you a happy life. Shen Er jumped out of the bed in an instant, swung his pillow and threw it wildly at the bed. Slot. You've been fooled. New book portal, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Fangshi, new book various seeks. You are listening at novel full.audio. Chapter 2 Fangshi, new book various seeks. In early March, spring is full of vitality. The cherry blossoms haven't bloomed yet, but they are also coming soon. A few days ago, there was a snowfall, and Shen Er felt that it was probably the last snowfall on the verge of next winter. At dusk, under the uninhabited riverbank where the snow had just melted, due to age and various issues, a slightly frail blue-haired boy was lying barefoot on the bank of a somewhat turbulent river doing one-handed push-ups. Sweat had already soaked a piece of land beneath him, but Shen Er gritted his teeth and persisted. 290.9, 300. After counting 300, Shen Er finally stopped and collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. Sun Tzu, countdown to 20-second rest time, 191817, listening to Siri's familiar voice in his mind over the past 3 years, it may be due to his habit that Shen Er is no longer as angry as he initially was. As for why I switched back to Siri, it's because the other domestic voice sounds too emotional. What is it like to have someone affectionately calling you son thief every day? It will collapse. As for Siri, she is numb to emotions. Shen Er, who struggled to get up, took off his pants without thinking and plunged into the turbulent river with a fierce thrust, wearing only his swimsuit with an anime beautiful girl pattern printed on it. The cold water immediately perked up Shen Er's spirit, but he didn't hesitate and started swimming desperately against the current. Although I am indeed exhausted, I have no choice but to become a worker. Son thief, there are only 198 meters left from the 200-meter daily task. Keep going, hold on. I believe you will eventually become an emperor like a grandfather. Well, I really want to smoke this dog system, but I can't get it, so I can't block it yet. A small distraction prevented Shen Er from connecting his movements, and in an instant, he was swept far away by the turbulent river. However, Shen Er did not give up on this and continued to grit his teeth. From the second day he obtained this dog system, Shen Er started exercising under the daily tasks arranged by the system. It has been 3 years now. In the words of the system, to become a qualified emperor, one must first have a good physique. Of course, the system never calls itself the system, but rather refers to itself as the first emperor. He was his grandfather many generations ago, and only pursued him to this world to compensate for his father, Fusu. Shen Er didn't believe it and even wanted to uninstall it. Time and time again, he worked hard and was washed far away by the cold and turbulent river, but Shen Er never gave up. After all, the progress bar of the main task was so poor that if he didn't work hard on the daily task finally, before the remaining light of dusk completely disappeared and darkness arrived, Shen Er successfully completed 2 consecutive daily tasks of single-handed 300 push-ups and counter-current 200-meter freestyle. Shen Er, who had no strength left, grabbed the riverbank and climbed up forcefully, leaving a mark on the nearby stone where he had landed. If you look closely, you will find that the turbulent riverbank is already engraved with marks, 5 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters, all the way to the current 200 meters. Shen Er, lying on the ground, was still panting heavily. It took about 2 minutes for his breathing to ease a bit. Shen Er, who stood up on the ground, was about to open the system interface to check his daily rewards, but then a corner of his eye noticed that he was standing on the riverbank with a backpack on his back, staring blankly at the purple-haired little girl with ribbons tied to his head. Jiantong Sakura, formerly known as Yuansaka Sakura, has been adopted by the Jiantong family for 4 years. Under the training that Shen Er did not want to imagine, the color of his hair and pupils also became closer to purple. If possible, Shen Er would never want to go to that dark, putrid, disgusting, and cold basement that made his scalp tingle. Slowly getting up, Shen Er walked step by step towards the backpack he had placed on the shore 200 meters away. After taking out a clean towel from his backpack and roughly wiping his body, Shen Er put on his clothes, put on his backpack, and climbed up the riverbank step by step. Brother. Passing by Sakura's side, upon hearing Sakura's soft shout, Shen Er did not show any emotions and remained indifferent. He only coldly responded a few meters away. Upon hearing the sound, Sakura lowered her head and silently followed. To be honest, in recent years, Shen Er's attitude toward Sakura has gradually changed from initially not hating and bullying while loving her to indifference and indifference. This is intentional by Shen Er, after all, to provide cover for daily exercise and tasks, then the only way is to discover the truth and myself. Esteem forces me to work hard. Then there is one more thing, which is to never be too kind to Sakura and make Sakura dependent on her, otherwise she will definitely be played to death by Bug Yi, as a pawn threatening to distort Sakura's personality in the 5th Holy Grail War that will come in only 7 years. Shen Er has no doubt at all. As long as he makes Sakura develop some kind of dependence, then Bu Yi definitely dares to do such a thing and will definitely do it. That old man will never talk about family relationships. So, until I have the power to protect myself, I can only shrink down and act. Fortunately, my acting skills are excellent. In the eyes of my cheap father and grandfather, I have discovered the truth in recent years. I know the cruel fact that Sakura, an outsider, is the heir of the Jian family, which is why I am becoming increasingly indifferent to Sakura. Even began to search for other ways to fight against Sakura, such as flipping through some old man's travel records, some magic records from the East, exercising, and starting to search and learn some martial arts and qigong from the East. They probably think that they don't want to give up just because they don't give up, but they don't pay too much attention to themselves. After all, they are just useless people without any magic talent. Whether it was Bu Yi or his cheap father, they all focused their attention completely on Sakura at this moment, ignoring themselves. However, this is also worth considering, as long as you give yourself enough time looking at the attribute panel and task panel that could only be seen by oneself. Shen Er's mind moved and confirmed the completion of the daily exercise small task. In an instant, a cool yet satisfying airflow entered Shen Er's body out of thin air, almost making him moan uncontrollably due to the comfort, but fortunately he managed to hold it back. Sun Tzu, it took 3 years to reach the beginner's level of qi absorption for this alchemist. We need to work even harder. Fangshi is fundamentally similar to the cultivators in the cultivation text, but there is no spiritual energy in this world, so to obtain the necessary spiritual energy, one can only complete daily tasks and obtain it from the system rewards. Although it took me 3 years to reach the lowest level of qi absorption in this alchemist, it also means that I will be a qualified alchemist in the future. Shen Er had already memorized the method of promoting qi and the meridian diagram, ignoring the sound of the system. He began to cautiously try his first practice of promoting qi. Fortunately, Shen Er succeeded the first time. Feeling the spiritual energy slowly flowing through the meridians, which was gradually transforming into an inner element, Shen Er, although pleased in his heart, remained calm on his face. As he passed through a brightly lit shopping street, Shen Er suddenly remembered something and stopped to look at the nearby jewelry store. Today seems to be the birthday of this poor sister daily at 6 o'clock, stable updates. New books with various demands. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Requires extra money. New book seeking various. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 requires extra money. New book seeking various, brother. Watching Shen Er stop to look at the side window, Sakura also stopped and tentatively shouted. Shen Er looked at the window of the jewelry store with indifferent eyes and said coldly, "Go inside and choose something you like." Sakura, holding a pure white rabbit doll in her arms, still silently followed behind Shinji with her head down. Thank you. Before Sakura could finish speaking, Shen Er spoke up and interrupted Sakura with an indifferent voice, "It's just because I'm the eldest son of the Jian family. I don't want to be known that the eldest son of the Jian family can't even remember his sister's birthday, which would embarrass the Jian family." "Oh, right." Sakura responded with a timid apology, but before she could utter the last word, she was silenced once again by the sound of Shen Er biting her teeth and the clenched fist she saw stopping her throat. For Sakura, who has experienced inhumane torment that ordinary people cannot even imagine at the age of 9, in recent years, the only brother in the family who once felt a bit warm has also started to dislike herself, which is simply adding insult to injury, undoubtedly exacerbating Sakura's despair. However, despite this, Sakura still couldn't hate this nominal brother, even though he was extremely cold and always threw his most disliked dessert at him like garbage. But at least that is one of the few normal foods that one can eat without poison. And every year's birthday gift has never been missing. Sakura often comforts herself, but this brother still cares about her. But the cold and gradually jealous gaze always shattered the girl's heart time and time again. And his attitude, which is completely different from how he treats others and himself, also stimulates Sakura's heart time and time again. Although he always skipped classes, his brother, who ranked first in grades and sports at school, was humble, polite, and talkative towards everyone around him. However, he remained extremely indifferent towards himself. "Even when I see myself at school, I basically pretend not to know each other and never say much. I'm probably really someone who is not liked by anyone." Shen Er can probably understand Sakura's inner feelings, but he has no choice but to make excuses for exercising. Shen Er also had something unexpected, which was that, due to his own reasons, he exacerbated Sakura's inner despair and laid the foundation for Sakura to develop some distorted emotions towards her in the future. Even the plot began to deviate significantly from the original development of FSN, without Shen Er being aware of it. Shen Er's idea is quite simple. He should survive in the most reasonable way and then develop. As for everything else, he should wait until he grows up. Under the dim moonlight and the old and dim yellow streetlights that made a hissing sound due to poor contact, it added a touch of coldness to the already gloomy courtyard of the Jian family. When Shen Er, who had just returned home, saw the middle-aged man waiting in the living room. His cheap old father, Jian Tong Hai, and his cheap old grandfather, Jian Tong Dirty Inkstone. Sitting on the sofa with a cane, dressed in a combination of blue and dark gray kimono, with limbs as thin as a mummy, and deep sunken eye sockets revealing a hint of hale and lustful radiance. His hunched body showed a slight hunchback. When Shen Er saw his cheap old grandfather, Jian Tong Dirty Inkstone, sitting on the sofa, his eyes immediately showed a hint of hope. "Grandpa. Dad, Before Shen Er could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Jian Tong Hai. "Sakura, come here for a moment. Shen Er, please go back to your room." At the same time, Dirty Inkstone also stood up from the sofa, but he didn't look at Shen Er from beginning to end, his eyes fixed on Sakura behind Shen Er. Shen Er clenched his small fist tightly and gritted his teeth, lowering his head to hide his expression in the shadows. "It feels like such a thing." Until the two of them left with Sakura, Shen Er still didn't let go of his fists. In the room, Shen Er lay on his big bed, admiring his acting just now. If it were in his past life, it would be a safe Oscar. "System, please be cautious and call softly. Grandpa is here. Slot. You're taking advantage of yourself." Shen Er cursed inwardly. Then he began to check the system panel. The entire system panel is mainly divided into the taskbar and the points mall. The points mall is temporarily not open due to Shen Er's weak cultivation and insufficient permissions. Currently, only the task panel is open. The task panel is mainly divided into daily tasks, main tasks, regular tasks, and strategy tasks. Completing tasks can extract some rewards. Daily tasks are the simplest, just like today's exercise tasks, and rewards are usually only a small amount of spiritual energy. There are currently no tasks appearing for regular tasks. There are 2 main tasks. Main Task 1. Complete the redemption of Jian Tong Dirty Inkstone, Makirazaljan, within 10 years. Difficulty. SSS, Tip. The best redemption for him is to remind him of everything he has forgotten and send him on the road without regrets. Task Reward. Task Progress. 0.01%, remaining time. 7 years, Sun Tzu, work hard. Saving dementia in old age is urgent. Seeing this task, Shen Er was a bit angry. At the beginning, Nima didn't ask herself to redeem the Bug Lord, but directly named him and made it very straightforward. She let herself take action within 10 years and ended him up. My conversation with the system back then was probably like this: dog system. Kill someone for me within 10 years. Shen Er. Wash marrow pill plus heart method plus meridian diagram plus 200 drops of highly concentrated spiritual energy liquid required for cultivation. Dog system. Take it, this is the deposit, wash marrow pill plus heart method plus meridian diagram, Shen Er, take it up to check and put it away. Who are you going to kill in the system? Dog system. One of the 3 royal families, the head of the Jian Tong family. Jian Tong Dirty Inkstone. Shen Er, startled. Who? System, don't you know he's my grandfather? Dog system. Do you still care about these things as a person? Shen Er. You misunderstood the system. This person is my bloodline, relative, and elder. Dog system. Shen Er. You need to add money. So after a lot of arguments, the main task changed from results of Jian Tong Dirty Inkstone within 10 years to redemption of Jian Tong Dirty Inkstone within 10 years, with no money added. The task has not changed at all except for a different explanation. This dog system still knows how to play. Next is the second main task. Main Task 2. Completely destroy and eliminate the Holy Grail system. Difficulty. SSSS, Tip. 5th Holy Grail War, Holy Grail System, Einsberg Factory. Task Rewards. Task Progress. 0.003%, remaining time. 7 years, what a pervert this task is. Shen Er sighed and realized that he had completed 3 years of daily exercises to exchange a little bit of spiritual energy before embarking on the path of cultivation. If he wanted to do these things in the next Holy Grail War. The 5th Holy Grail War 7 years later. It was basically a pipe dream. But Sun Tzu, these are all tests that I have put on you. I believe you can accomplish them, so I have set you the highest risk reward. As long as you complete the task, the reward is definitely beyond your imagination. But there is also a slight relative risk, which is that there is a 90% chance of becoming a vegetative person after failure. However, I believe that as my bloodline, you will never have the slightest possibility of mission failure. Come on, Ali Shen Er. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Life is like a play, all relying on acting skills. New book seeks various. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Life is like a play, all relying on acting skills. New book seeks various. Strategy task. Target audience. Sakura. Progress, favorability. 25%, target audience. Rin Osaka. Progress, favorability. 15%, only flipping to the second target of the strategy. Shen Er stopped and asked the system in confusion. Why did Ling's progress suddenly increase by 5 points? Isn't the initial value all 10? I have never seen her before. Grandpa doesn't know. Shen Er directly explodes hair. Slot. You're done. How much did you take advantage of me in 3 years? It's not over, is it? How can I talk to my grandfather? I fuck XX. Stop playing. Plants are just plants. Even if you become a vegetable, you can't untie it. Grandchild, you can still hear the voice of the widow. Shen Er, who had collapsed, jumped out of the bed in an instant, swung his pillow and started smashing the bed, shedding his hatred in his heart. Coincidentally, Jian Tonghe, who had just finished assisting with work, passed by the door of his son's room. After hearing the sound of Shen Er's smashing and the continuous gritting of his teeth, he shook his head and sighed helplessly. It's okay if there's no magic circuit, why not give up inheriting the family property with yourself as soon as possible? What are you risking your life for? This foolish son really doesn't follow him at all. Shen Er, who had been venting for a long time but had little effect, finally decided to go out and breathe. However, just as he opened the door, Shen Er saw Sakura standing at his doorstep holding a little rabbit doll with empty and lifeless eyes. It has probably been ravaged once again. Feeling heartbroken is indeed quite heartbreaking. After all, I am at least a mature adult with a perfect mind, and I really can't bear to see child abuse. Many times, Shen Er wants to shout out directly. Loli doesn't play like that. You should give her a cute and lovely little dress, dress up beautifully, and make her fragrant, that's right. Of course, I only dare to think so in my heart. Brother. Shen Er frowned, his face clearly showing a hint of displeasure. Good night. Sakura bowed before slowly turning around and leaving holding the little rabbit doll. It wasn't until Sakura returned to her own room at the other end of the corridor and closed the door that Shinji made a move. Dong! Shen Er, who was biting his teeth, slammed hard on the wall as if saying, "What is this? Show off or ridicule?" Of course, this is also a pretense. After all, from the perspective of the god of insects, it would be terrible if it were exposed. When it comes to acting, you have to do the entire set. Although Shen Er, who was running at night, always had a look of disgust and resentment on his face, the face of Sakura flashed through his mind from time to time. That is, the expression of despair that is no longer extravagant in seeking any redemption, which is about surrendering one's life. Among the three world lines, the only one that brought redemption to this poor girl was the protagonist Shiro from the HF line. The other two lines, Sakura, who didn't have much screen time, only showed a face in the ending. As for what Sakura's future is in these two lines, Shinji doesn't know. I believe it will be better, but it won't be too beautiful either. Shen Er is indeed powerless at this moment, hoping that this girl can persist until the moment when she completes the main task. In short, Shichin. Climb out and take the blame. Time flies by. 2.5 years passed by in a blink of an eye. Shen Er, who has already entered the first grade of junior high school, is still no different from before, skipping classes, exercising for daily tasks, and then practicing. There is also a difference that Shen Er feels happy about compared to the original work. That's because my height is almost enough to reach the height set by the second master, only 7 centimeters away. I expect to surpass second master before entering high school. To borrow the words of a teacher, it can be described as a handsome and outstanding student who loves to skip classes, has an unexpectedly good personality and popularity. Although occasionally acting strangely is enough, for example. On the day of junior high school enrollment, I went to the wrong school and confessed to a new student at someone else's school gate, but was rejected and fixed. For example, in swimming class, wearing the unique pink swim trunks with cute anime girls printed on them doesn't feel embarrassed at all. In October, on the occasion of the cultural festival. As a celebrity who skipped no less than 60 days of classes within 6 months of entering junior high school, Shen Er was blocked by his homeroom teacher the day before the cultural festival. Watching the woman holding hands and blocking the classroom door with a black face, staring straight at herself in a purple professional suit and a serious glasses on her face, Shen Er flicked her hair in front of her forehead. Alara teacher Yuzi, I don't actually cannot accept this kind of prohibition relationship, but can you give me a little time? This practice of blocking students during school hours will result in point deductions for me. Ignoring Shen Er's playful behavior, Shen Er's homeroom teacher, a female teacher named Yuzi, angrily said, "Jian Tong, do you remember how many times you have come to school since you entered school? Teacher, is it thinking about me every moment?" Shen Er showed a surprised expression on his face, then frowned and showed a hint of reluctance. "I'm really sorry, teacher, I didn't notice your serious intention. I will consider it carefully and reply to you. No, tomorrow, I'll see you the day after tomorrow." Yuzi didn't give Shen Er a chance to escape. In an instant, he grabbed Shen Er's back collar, which was about to cross him, and helped him with his glasses on the bridge of his nose. He then turned around and pulled Shen Er towards his office. "Teacher, where are you taking me?" Shen Er finally got serious and asked helplessly. "Grades don't represent everything. Jian Tong. Your absenteeism problem is really serious. The student union has found me more than once. Let's have a good chat today. If that's still the case, the teacher will have to call your parents." Upon hearing this, Shen Er sighed and said, "Teacher, if you could call my parents over, I would really promise you not to be absent again. But it shouldn't be possible. They don't care about me that much." When Shen Er came out of the teacher's office, it was already completely dark. In the dimly lit corridor, Shen Er leaned on his hands and walked wearily towards the nearby staircase. As for the class teacher's recent conversation, most of it was in one ear and out the other, without remembering a word. Shen Er looked at the system panel and walked towards the corner of the stairs. After 2.5 years of exhausting daily tasks and continuous personal cultivation day and night, Shen Er finally broke through the realm of the alchemist's chi absorption and stepped into the realm of soul condensation. The levels of alchemists can be roughly divided into chi absorption, soul concentration, soul forging, rongnian, spirit gathering, river transformation, mountain and sea, sun and moon, Dao Ming, and Tongyu. Each realm is divided into smaller realms, and every time a small realm is elevated, there will be a qualitative leap. However, there are differences in the smaller realms within each realm. For example, the condensed soul is the 3 souls that condense and diverge within the body, and forging the soul is hammering the 7 souls. According to the dog system, in order to easily redeem dirty inkstones, at least 3 stages of soul forging are required. However, Shen Er believes that if he wants to achieve 3 stages of soul forging within more than 4 years, from entering the first stage of soul solidification, but has not yet successfully condensed the first soul, it is simply a foolish dream. Of course, there is one thing that Shen Er, who is always cautious about not realizing, is worried about being discovered that he has never used power before. That is, maybe the magic in this world and magic in the original world are regarded as Cthulhu-like things, but what I have learned now is the real Cthulhu or the ancient and mysterious Oriental nightmare for the current world-friendly reminder. The previous system is not the protagonist's true golden finger, so there is no detailed description. The protagonist's true golden finger will be released after the 5th battle. Simply put, after the 5th battle, the protagonist will transform from a leek to a sickle. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Dreamless People and Enhancing Friendship, New Book Seeks Various. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Dreamless People and Enhancing Friendship, New Book Seeks Various. Shen Er cannot dream. Not being able to dream is a super special constitution of Shen Er. It was like this in his past life, never having a dream. When the system first told him about this, Shen Er didn't think it was anything special, but after consulting information, he realized that there is no one in the world who never dreams, even those who claim they can't dream actually dream while sleeping. This is all related to the cerebral cortex and nerves inside the brain. Simply put, it is human instinct. If one really cannot dream, it can only indicate that the person is mentally disabled. The brain activity is impaired, and there are problems with the body. But Shen Er's brain and body are not a problem, just simply not dreaming, as if lacking a human instinct. The system couldn't come up with a reason, but Shen Er didn't care either. If he didn't, he wouldn't, and when he was awake, he couldn't why. In the past 2.5 years, there has been another change in the system interface, which is the opening of regular tasks and points mall. As the name suggests, ordinary tasks are truly ordinary tasks, belonging to random refreshes. For example, a woman who dares to confess her true identity, why should my grandson not dare? On the day of enrollment, go to XXX Middle School to confess her love to Rin Osaka. For example, elderly people should take good care of themselves. Go and wake up the old bugs at 6 o'clock in the morning to practice Tai Chi together. For example, even though she is reincarnated, she has the grace of childbirth. Go to the hotel where your cheap father stayed to catch the adultery and make that woman leave. The reward for regular tasks is points, which can be used to purchase items in the points mall. There are many miscellaneous items in the mall. When it comes to subdividing, it becomes even more diverse, and overall, there is everything. There are even some adjustments made based on this world, such as 100% cracking magic barriers with bricks, 1.time, removing imprinted worms from the body with suction ice, 1.time, and eating brain damage tablets that can make people's minds smarter, 2 tablets when you feel like you are brain damaged, great. The most amazing thing is that it even has rubies and sapphires. But it's useless, the price is so expensive that I can't even think about it. Looking at the most affordable, quick and strong pill, in the limited condensing soul realm, which only requires 500 points and can last for a month to double the cultivation speed, Shen Er couldn't help but swallow his saliva. But it's useless and I can't afford it. After completing so many ordinary tasks, I have only accumulated less than 200 points now, so I can buy 2 bottles of brain fragments. Whoever buys the brain fragments of the one who is disabled. Shen Er, who went down to the first floor, closed the system interface while still analyzing carefully in his heart. In the past 2 years, due to some common tasks, such as practicing Tai Chi together in the morning, my relationship with Dirty Inkstone has eased a lot. Occasionally, he also shows a kind side to himself like an ordinary grandfather. However, for Dirty Inkstone, this is just a clumsy move by his grandson, hoping to help him become a magician and become the head of the Jian family. However, it's useless. I have already checked it myself and found that the magic circuit on this grandson is blocked to the point of no rescue. The path of the magician has long been cut off. However, this grandson's physical exercise is still good, and good grades indicate that his brain is smart enough. Apart from the inherent pride of the magic family that cannot be eliminated, his personality is good in school. Therefore, in recent years, Dirty Inkstone's attitude towards Shen Er has slightly improved. Occasionally, he even throws some stocks over his own son to Shen Er for him to operate, presumably to cultivate Shen Er into a person responsible for matters beyond magic in the future of the Jian family. When Shen Er saw Sakura at home, the occasional jealousy in his eyes made Dirty Inkstone feel that his grandson had not given up on magic. However, for some reasons, Dirty Inkstone seemed to be enjoying it so much. For Dirty Inkstones, although Shen Er is not very useful in magic now, at least he is no longer entirely a unfilial grandson and has a somewhat insignificant use. So, this has also led to the complex psychology that Shen Er is currently developing. Can I really ruthlessly kill this cheap grandfather myself? Only a few talented people are your grandfather. Shen Er. Add money. At this moment, Shen Er suddenly stopped in front of the half-open door of a lit activity room. In the room was his familiar classmate. Ichiro Omiya, the protagonist of FSN, the Queen of Harem, and his righteous companion. Oh, student Wei Gong. Shen Er, leaning against the classroom door, raised his hand and said hello. The scholar who was repairing the cultural festival sign turned around and said, Shen Er, you haven't left school yet. Shen Er shrugged his shoulders and walked slowly into the activity room. I just finished enduring the bitterness of Yuzi being dumped by her boyfriend. I'm talking about you. Shilang shook his head helplessly. Don't always tease teacher Yuzi. It's just because you often miss work that she gets angry, right? That's right, it's like fate. Even though I was a reincarnation, I became good friends with Shiro, and even a few months earlier than the original work. I became good friends when I just entered junior high school. After contact, Shen Er finally understood how pure and precious the integrity, simplicity, seriousness, foolishness, clumsiness, and even idealistic innocence in the personality of Wei Gong Shilang were. Are you being asked again? Yes, it needs to be done before dawn tomorrow. You're really the same old man. You would agree to such unreasonable demands. Shen Er showed a hint of helplessness. Do you want to help? No need, I can do it alone. Wei Gong, you. Shen Er frowned slightly as he pinched his chin, and his expression also showed a hint of solemnity. What type of AV do you like? Beep. And, beep. Puff. Shilang couldn't help but take a deep breath and said, "What did you suddenly say in a cold manner?" No, I just feel that you are very unfamiliar with my friend. One way to enhance friendship and bring relationships closer is to discuss difficult things with each other. Don't you know this common sense? What common sense is that? Shilang retorted, and then showed some gratitude. Although I am grateful that you want to help, it doesn't matter there. As long as you come to school, your sister will basically wait for you at the school gate to go home together. Shen Er said nonchalantly, probably has already gone back, after all, it's so late. My sister is serving dim sum. Shilang was helpless. I don't care about that kind of thing, Shen Er said as he pulled up a chair and sat down, showing a look of enthusiasm. What was the answer to that question just now? Which type do the two types prefer? Or do you prefer the other type, Wei Gong? Shouldn't this question be asked to a junior high school student? What's the matter? Everyone is a boy. Or have you never seen Wei Gong before? End of this chapter. Chapter 6 Shen Er. I didn't expect it, did I? I am also a partner of justice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Shen Er. I didn't expect it, did I? I am also a partner of justice. New book seeking various, watching Shilang, who had a red face and remained silent while doing his work. Shen Er suddenly noticed something and reached out to open his bag, rummaging through it while speaking on his own. Then I'll borrow it. I happen to have all types here. You guys have brought something to school. Shilang blushed and roast. AV, adult magazines, comics, 18-band comics, fan 18-band comics, and 18-band gameplay, regular gameplay. Watching Shen Er flipping through his bag, Shilang's eyes couldn't help but twitch. Shen Er, you really are, among the boys in the class who haven't borrowed anything, you're the only one left, Wei Gong, Shen Er said with a hint of concern. To be honest, I'm worried about you. Wei Gong. Are you not interested in girls? Are you interested in men of the same sex? That's not it. Roar, Shen Er raised his eyebrows, really? So, could you tell me what type of girl you're interested in? It's too early to discuss this topic at this age. Didn't you say you wanted help? Don't shift the topic. Lord Wei Gong. The issue we are discussing now is a very serious one. It should be said to be a very boring question. Shilang retorted, but then suddenly something came to his mind and casually continued, but then again, Shen Er, do you have someone you like? You even went to other schools to confess to girls on your school day. That's just a hot brain, don't worry, Shen Er waved his hand, his face disapproving. Is that right? Shiro glanced up at Shen Er and deliberately said, I heard it was called Yuansaka or something, but after being rejected, he was also heavily repaired. So didn't we all talk about it? It's just that my brain started to heat up. Then my brain instantly became clear. It's not related to being beaten. I don't believe it, Shilang replied. Really? Shen Er stood up in an instant, clenched his fist, and showed a serious expression on his face. At the last moment, I suddenly woke up. The cute dots with the attributes of double ponytails. There is a deadline. Shilang's mouth twitched as he said, "What the hell are you talking about?" After realizing this, I changed my mind and said it was just a joke, and I bear the cost of joking. Getting beaten up. That's right, that's the situation. Shen Er did not tell the truth. It was the first time he met and confessed to Yuan Saka-rin that he suddenly realized something was wrong. After realizing that something might be wrong, Shen Er quickly changed his mind and said that he was just joking. In the end, he was beaten up. The favorability of Lin in the strategy mission also decreased by 5 points after that confession, but compared to Lin's increasing favorability for unknown reasons over the past 2.5 years, it only decreased slightly. At present, Lin's favorability is 40. And Sakura's favorability remains around 50. For this kind of thing, Shen Er is a bit confused and always feels like something is wrong, but he can't explain it. However, I didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, there was Shilang Playground High Jump behind it, which was the beginning of the real relationship between the two sisters. Wei Gong, to be honest, I am actually a partner of justice. After hearing the words, just partner, Shilang suddenly froze and his work stopped. He looked up at Shen Er in a daze. I saw Shen Er standing on the chair, his right hand pressed against his chest, and solemnly preaching, "That's right. For me, cuteness is just. Only cuteness can live up to in this world. I want to be that righteous partner." What kind of justice is that? Shilang rose in silence. It's the justice in my heart. Shen Er said as he opened his school uniform, revealing the lining of the cute anime girl. How's it? Is it cute? Shilang just awkwardly tugged at the corner of his mouth and said, "Shen Er, you are." Shen Er interrupted Shilang's words and said, "Hey, don't you think it's cute?" It's not a cute issue, it's just that no matter how cute these things are, they have nothing to do with justice. Enough. Wei Gong. If you keep talking, I'll get angry. This is justice. The justice in my heart. Shilang suddenly thought of a possibility and asked, "So what, Shen Er, should you be Luo?" Ah. You said it out loud. You were just about to say that I was controlled by Loli. I'm not that kind of pervert, let me know in advance. Absolutely not. I haven't finished speaking yet, Shen Er, you seem to be confessing to yourself. What are you saying? In this way, amidst the hustle and bustle among friends, the two of them worked together to make signs for the cultural festival, and it wasn't until midnight that the signs were ready. Shilang stretched lazily, then looked at the sign in front of him with his hands on his hips, then turned his face to look at Shen Er on the side, grateful and said, "Thanks to Shen Er's help, otherwise we would have to stay up all night today. Thank you. If you want to thank me, please treat me to something to eat. It's a warm homemade dish." It's possible, but won't you go home? There hasn't been anyone at home lately, and my dad basically can't stay at the hotel and can't go home. By the way, last time I went to the hotel to catch adultery, it was really fun. Your personality is still a bit bad, as always. Don't just casually reveal such complex family information. It's okay, after all, it's Wei Gong, Shen Er said with a nonchalant expression, then picked up his handbag and threw it behind him, his hand resting on his shoulder, and the other hand tucking in his pant pocket. Let's go, I'm a bit impatient. Let's think about it. I'll have fried chicken, jianfu luo, and shou shigua. I'll also have some octopus meatballs. What the hell is the last octopus braised? And what kind of pairing is this? It's too strange, isn't it? Jianfu luo, please pair it well with udon noodles for me. Huh, Shen Er, who arrived at the door, chuckled and reached out to open the activity room door. He turned back and said mysteriously, "This is a delicious combination." What kind of messy answer is this? Shilang shook his head helplessly, but suddenly noticed something and asked Shen Er in confusion, "Shen Er, why did you stop? Didn't you just say you can't wait? After the words fell, the scholar realized that there was a young girl standing outside the activity room, and that girl was his sister, Jian, who was waiting for Shen Er outside the school gate many times. She was studying at a nearby elementary school. Brother. Shen Er did not respond and his face remained indifferent. Shen Er. Shilang tentatively shouted. Wei Gong, I'm sorry, I won't be able to have dinner with you today. Don't cry alone then, goodbye, see you tomorrow. Shen Er, who turned around with a smile on his face, joked a few words before turning around and crossing over Sakura's side, slowly walking down the corridor towards the direction of the shoe cabinet, without saying a word. Sakura politely bowed to Shiro and turned around to silently follow Shinji. Looking at these strange brothers and sisters, Shilang sighed. Shen Er and his sister still get along in the same way as before. Who would be lonely because of eating alone? P.S. Thank you for recommending the ticket. New books for all kinds. Follow up. Collect. Recommended. Investment. Prisoners of You. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Stay overnight in the rain. New book seeks various tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Stay overnight in the rain. New book seeks various tickets. Looking at the backs of Shen Er and Sakura, Shiro really wanted to say something, but in the end, he still didn't say anything. The relationship between my friend and this common sister is very cold, and they talk very little. The way they get along is basically one walking in front and the other following behind with their head down, and this has always been the case. I have also reminded Shen Er to be closer to his sister, but it doesn't seem to be of much use, and Shen Er doesn't seem to want to talk about such things. Perhaps due to the complexity of his family, Shiro thought to himself. After all, he had heard Shen Er say more than once that he saw his father holding another woman into a hotel or something. Late at night, the light rain kept pouring down. As Shinji and Sakura stood still under the eaves of the teaching building, Shiro, who had just walked over, kindly said, "Since it's raining, do you want to stay at my house? Although we can't make octopus barbecue today, there are still many vacant rooms." Wei Gong, I. Shen Er said with a frightened expression on his face and covered his chest, half jokingly saying, "I'm just for the first time. I'm not mentally prepared yet." "Don't play anymore," Shilang slammed Shen Er's shoulder and helplessly replied, "At this point, the bus back to your house has long been suspended, except for going to my house and sleeping at school." Glancing at Sakura, who was lying silent with her head down, Shen Er thought for a moment and then replied, "Okay," after just 3 seconds of thinking, "I'm already mentally prepared. Anyway, it's just a matter of time." "I told you not to be joking," Shilang curled his lips, but the next moment his chin was provoked by Shen Er, who was approaching with a deep expression on his face. "I'm serious, can you make such a natural joke in front of your own sister?" Shilang angrily knocked off Shen Er's hand. "Anyway, it's better to hurry up. I didn't expect to stay at school so late, so I didn't bring an umbrella. Now I can only run back in the rain." "Ah, yes," Shen Er said as he casually took off his coat and threw it onto Sakura's head. At this moment, Sakura suddenly froze for a moment and blinked unconsciously, as if surprised by her brother's actions. However, she soon thought of something else, which was probably the same as her previous birthday gift. They are all worried about spreading it and leaving a bad reputation, so they act recklessly. "Follow me and your brother," Shiro said, casually putting his bag on his head. "Is it possible?" Sakura timidly asked Shinji, "I can go." "Whatever you want," Shen Er casually said, with no emotion in his eyes, and then he stepped into the rain with his bag. "Wei Gong, I want to take a shower first." "Don't worry, there is more than one bathroom in my house. Even if there is only one, shouldn't girls be allowed to wash it first?" Shirang frowned and said. However, Shen Er had already run out a long distance, obviously unable to hear him. In the end, he had no choice but to shrug his shoulders and turn his face to look at Sakura on the side. Let's go too. After hesitating for a long time, Sakura followed Shiro into the rain as if she had made up her mind. The Wei Palace family. I'm back. What are you shouting? This is my house, isn't it? The taxi driver beside him said angrily. Welcome back. Shen Er turned around and bowed to Shilang. You definitely mean it, right? You're bothering me at such a time. Learn from me, no, good, meaning, thinking, nagging, bothering. It's okay, please come in quickly. Shen Er shook his head and made an invitation gesture. You. Shilang, who was soaked all over, rushed directly towards Shen Er, and the two of them started arguing in the foyer. Looking at Shen Er laughing and arguing with Shilang on the foyer floor, Sakura felt an indescribable sense of strangeness, or rather a sense of difference, in her heart. It can be roughly described as one's older brother is only so indifferent to oneself. At the entrance of the activity room, she also heard the surname Yuansaka. In addition to other schools, these two conditions, coupled with the presence of her brother's love and confession, caused some negative emotional seeds that were already hidden in Sakura's heart to gradually take root and sprout. Of course, Shen Er was not aware of these and foolishly thought that Sakura would eventually like Sergeant Lang. The section about Sakura in the strategy task is basically ignored. Shen Er didn't know that in Sakura's heart, which had seen her efforts countless times, a certain seed had already quietly grown. Whether it was good or bad, no one could say now. Ah, it's so comfortable. In the bathroom, Shen Er with a towel on his head closed his eyes and let out a comfortable sound. Shen Er, are you too cold and indifferent to your own sister? Wei Gong. Shen Er opened his eyes, raised his index finger and shook it. It's already the 13th time. At least you should have listened to it once. Anyway, there's something that nobody wants to talk about, right? That's what I don't want to talk about. You're such a person. At this moment, Shen Er, who seemed to have thought of something, casually asked, why haven't you seen Miss Day? Ting Jie has gone to study. Shen Er propped his chin and thought, I see, that's why he wanted to invite me home while no one was attacking me. Don't worry, Shen Er. My sexual orientation is very normal. So, are you really ready to take action against me? Have you ever listened to me? In the living room, Shen Er, sitting casually at a low table, muttered Wudong and muttered, indeed, it must be Wei Gong's cuisine. It was resurrected in an instant. Thank you very much for your praise. Shiro handed a piece of tempura to Sakura and replied, then looked at Sakura sitting beside her with her head down. Can Sakura call you that? Sakura, who had changed into Shiro's clothes after taking a shower, silently responded, thank you. If only you could be more natural like Shen Er, it's too reserved. You know, your brother has never been polite to me before. After all, sooner or later we will live together and be together forever. While stuffing a fried shrimp from his bowl into Shen Er's mouth and blocking it, Shiro casually said, please shut up for me. This is the strategy, Wei Gong, Shen Er said, squeezing his eyes as he chewed on Tianfu Luo in 3 or 2 bites, just for a tempura fried shrimp. You should know that there is only food in the world that cannot be let down. Shilang roast. Why does it sound familiar? Didn't you just say that only cute can be lived up to? Then only cuteness and delicious food cannot be let down. Can't you have some more principles? Shilang said in a somewhat speechless tone. How to put it? Shen Er raised his chin and looked up, pondering as he replied, principles can sometimes change. For example, if you eat something you like every day, you may occasionally want to change your taste. This has nothing to do with principles. It's just a different matter. Thank you for recommending and collecting. Seeking various things. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. We still don't know how many people saw the playground that day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. We still don't know how many people saw the high jump boys on the playground that day. New book seeking various, maybe so, Shen Er said with a disdainful expression as he continued to eat, but principles can indeed change, and often it's easier to change principles. What the hell are you talking about? No, it's nothing, just listen to it casually, don't put it in your heart. Strange guy. After dinner, it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. The rain was still pouring down, and Shen Er and Sakura finally gave up the idea of going back and stayed overnight at the Wei Gong family. The next day, in the morning. Upon opening the door and walking out, Shiro saw Sakura, who had just arrived in the living room. What about Shen Er? Brother, he went out for morning exercises at 4 o'clock. It's still early as usual, said Shilang, picking up the sticky notes left by Shen Er on the table and looking at them. No need for breakfast. See you the day after tomorrow, Wei Gong, you are destined to be the one in the mortal world. P.S. Tell Sakura that there's no need to wait for me at the school gate recently. Is this guy planning to skip class again? Shirang said helplessly, I have to tell my sister about this kind of thing myself. Is there anything else about me? Sakura asked incredulously. It said that there's no need to wait for him at the school gate recently. Maybe he's skipping classes again. So, Sakura's empty eyes clearly flashed with a hint of disappointment. After 2 seconds of silence, she continued speaking as if she had finally mustered up courage. So, Senior Wei Gong, if possible, can you tell me about my brother? Shen Er. Aren't you his sister? You should be very familiar with his affairs, right? Sakura shook her head and didn't respond, but her expression was self-evident. As if he had noticed something, Shilang slowly spoke up. Shen Er, he feels like he can get along well with anyone. He's easy to get along with and doesn't need to disguise himself when interacting with him. Although he often skips classes and rarely sees him studying, he always ranks first in grades and physical fitness. Sakura listened enthusiastically to what Shiro had said about Shen Er's daily life at school. Throughout breakfast time, Sakura perked her ears to listen to Shiro's words about her brother. After breakfast, Sakura, who was going out with Shiro, bowed gratefully to Shiro and said, "Thank you for telling me so much about my brother." "It's okay, it's not something to be grateful for. Let's go to school early, it's just on the way. I'll take you there. Senior Wei Gong, I." Sakura spoke as if she had once again made up her mind. "I want to ask you something." Looking at the young girl bowing to him in front of him and expressing his request, Shiro nodded and agreed to her request without much thought. For months have passed by in the blink of an eye, and Shen Er is also a well-rounded practitioner in the task of learning and living, even more so than when he played liver games in his previous life. The increasingly abnormal daily exercise tasks have never been missed, and none of the regular tasks have been missed. The deadline for the main task is still 4 years. I don't have much interest in strategic missions at the moment. Although I am also a skilled player in developing the game, I don't want to start so early in this situation. Even in reality, playing this kind of strategy game that can show favorability, Shen Er always feels a bit awkward. Simply put, it feels spicy, not love. So, in the strategy task section, Shen Er has basically not opened it again, and he has not paid any attention to likes or similar topics. Good grandson, a group of wives and concubines is a symbol of the emperor. We should keep up with our ideological consciousness as soon as possible. Ignoring the sound of the dog system, Shen Er lifted his leg and stepped out of the classroom. However, just as he walked out of the classroom door, he was stopped by his homeroom teacher. "Teacher Yuzi." Shen Er looked behind Yuzi and pretended to be surprised, saying, "The handsome guy wearing a designer suit and holding a rose is. Where is it?" Yuzi turned around in an instant. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shen Er squeezed out through the gap in the classroom door with a flexible side, turned around and ran along the corridor towards the nearby staircase without looking back. At the same time, Teacher Yuzi, who realized he had been deceived, also reacted and chased after him in a fit of anger. In fact, this scene is the most common one in this school, almost every few days. Against the backdrop of the sunset, in the golden corridor, Shen Er deliberately slowed down his pace, running and arguing with his homeroom teacher. This relaxed and joyful daily routine is also extremely precious to Shen Er. Jian Tong. Stop. You can't run in the hallway. No one can do it. Where would there be someone who would stop and then stop? Teacher, you should also run in the hallway. Shen Er ran and shouted without looking back, but just as he spoke, a corner of his eye suddenly noticed Shilang standing in front of the high jump pole warming up on the playground outside the corridor window. Suddenly, something came to mind. Well, Sakura applied for this junior high school, and these 2 days are the release time. Although she hasn't officially enrolled yet, she is still considered a student of this school. I will take advantage of this time to come to the school to handle some procedures and listen to some April admission notices and other briefing sessions. That is to say, today is the true starting point of the FSN storyline. That's the source of the meme that we don't know how many people saw Shilang jump high that day. Thinking of this, Shen Er calmly curled up a corner of his mouth, and the plot was finally about to begin. Feeling inexplicably relaxed in his heart, Shen Er quickened his pace and quickly rushed out of the teaching building. Shen Er didn't know that his sister, who had just finished the briefing and was supposed to be standing in the corridor watching Shilang jump, didn't pay too much attention to this kind of thing. She just glanced briefly and then shifted her gaze away on the other side, looking at Shen Er who was about to rush out of the school gate. Yuzi gasped for breath and shouted to the middle-aged man at the door, "Teacher Sato. Close the door. Stop Jian Tong." The middle-aged man understood everything from the moment he saw Shen Er. Although he had only been in school for a year, his friendship with him had a long history. Director Sato, a physical education teacher and teaching director with short hair, full of tendons and flesh, and a muscular figure, pulled the school gate without any hesitation in this weather, wearing only short sleeves. "Jian Tong, you're already a general." Director Sato snorted. "Is that right?" Shen Er, whose footsteps did not slow down at all, chuckled and answered. The next moment, he ran straight to the school gate, his legs slightly bent, jumped, crossed the door, and landed steadily outside the school gate. The entire movement was completed without any delay. "Jian Tong." Yuzi shouted angrily, but Shen Er remained completely unmoved and fled as if. Director Sato stared blankly at the 2-meter-high school gate next to him and murmured, "Can this guy jump over so easily even at this height?" At this moment, a black-haired girl with 2 ponytails named Yuan Saka-rin, who did not belong to this school but came to this school to handle affairs due to some materials from her own student union. She had just entered this junior high school and passed by Shen Er shortly after. Suddenly, she stopped and turned her head to look outside the school gate. "That one just now is that guy." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Shilang still jumping high, new book seeks various things. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Shilang still jumping high, new book seeks various things. At dusk, it was still by the extremely remote and turbulent river. Shen Er was doing one-finger push-ups with sweat streaming down his face and bare arms, and there were some weight-bearing blocks on his back, which were not less than 50 kilograms. Perhaps due to being still in the growth stage or other reasons, long-term and uninterrupted exercise did not turn Shen Er into a muscular man with large muscles from the appearance. Even though the muscle lines on his body are already very obvious, he is still just a slightly thin and frail adolescent boy who is much taller than his peers. Holding some student union materials in his hand, Lin stood on a distant riverbank and looked at Shen Er's figure in the distance. His thoughts couldn't help but be pulled back to 3 years ago. By chance, I happened to pass by and discovered Shen Er, who was doing physical training that was not suitable for his current age. After 300 single-handed push-ups, I jumped into the icy and turbulent river, swimming against the flow of the river. I was repeatedly pushed out by the turbulent water, but never gave up. The countless marks on the shore may be symbols of successful challenges one by one. The boy, who had reached a new milestone, climbed onto the bank exhausted from the river and lay on the shore panting with joy, as if he had achieved another goal. On that day, when the young man left, I understood his identity through the girl waiting on the riverbank. The eldest son of the rumored magic circuit of the Jian Tong family, Jian Tong Shen Er. And that girl was her original sister, Sakura Matsutake, formerly known as Sakura Osaka. Since then, Lin has come here from time to time, and he is likely to see Shen Er, who is doing increasingly abnormal physical training that is not suitable for his age. Every time, as Shen Er watched him perform training that was almost impossible or would definitely harm his body, Lin would always think, absolutely impossible to complete, right? However, every time Shen Er insists on completing the physical training to the next level, it should be noted that this person is not even a magician, and achieving such a thing is like some kind of miracle. And it's also a series of miracles. Can this miracle be achieved solely through hard work and perseverance? Lin once pursed his heart and asked himself, and tried physical training in his basement that was far from Shen Er's, but failed. I only achieved half of the task I set myself and couldn't persist anymore. When I was so tired that I couldn't stand up, all I thought of was giving up, but the figure of Shen Er followed closely in my mind. Why can one continue to persist when being washed out by turbulent rivers time and time again? What was he thinking at the time? No, that boy didn't think anything, his gaze never deviated from the target. Perhaps that's all I'm lacking in. From that day on, Lin also began to imitate Shen Er's training mode. Although the intensity could not be compared, he gradually planned to increase his training intensity when his physical strength allowed. Until one time, I accidentally increased the intensity of my physical training a little bit, and when there was only the last bit left in the training, I had no strength left and the barbell in my hand was about to fall to the ground due to exhaustion. However, at the last moment, looking at the physical fitness training task volume pasted on the wall next to him, a force surged out of his body from somewhere, causing Lin to once again grip the barbell in his hand and complete the last bit. After finishing, he was so weak that he lay motionless on the floor and suddenly laughed uncontrollably as he looked at the ceiling. I used to be able to do it too, but does he always feel the same way? Is that why I laughed so happily after completing that perverted training? It feels like it can be addictive and enjoyable. Lin didn't know, but Shen Er was just happy because he completed the system task, which was completely different from the happiness he thought. Later on, I would still occasionally watch his increasingly abnormal physical training, and occasionally breed. This is definitely not possible, right? This kind of absolutely impossible mood. However, there has still been no failure. This man is a madman. He treats his own madman with extreme cruelty. Rin has roast in his heart more than once, but he still watches Shen Er's figure. Especially the heartfelt joyful expression that comes out after each Shen Er training, I never tire of watching it. Because of a person, Lin began to believe in things he didn't care about before, such as perseverance, hard work, and so on miracle. Then, it was the confession that caught me off guard last year. In April, when cherry blossoms are in full bloom, they are constantly falling at the school gate. Lin, who had just entered junior high school, looked incredulously at Shen Er, who was standing outside the school gate with his eyes closed, and instinctively thought that the other person had entered the same junior high school as him. However, when Lin realized that the other party was wearing school uniforms that were completely different from those of the boys around him, he dispersed the idea and felt a faint sense of disappointment in his heart for some reason. Afterwards, the climax arrived. "Hey, do you want to be my girlfriend?" He opened his eyes and turned to the first sentence he said, which stunned him. Is there anyone in this world who confesses on their first meeting? Is his brain also full of muscles? By the way, are you too young? After staring blankly at Shen Er for a while, Lin finally regained consciousness, and his face turned completely red in the moment of regaining consciousness. Do you know what you're talking about, you guys? Can't it? Shen Er asked curiously. You looked embarrassed and angry, and couldn't even speak clearly. Ah, if it doesn't work out, let's just treat it as an April Fool's Day joke. Goodbye, unknown girl. Watching Shen Er leave with such a statement that he was about to turn around and leave, a surge of anger rose in his heart and Lin kicked him directly. Intentionally. You bastard. This is the first and only overly dramatic conversation and communication between the two. Ling, who had gradually regained his drifting thoughts, looked at Shen Er in the distance. At this moment, he had already completed single-finger push-ups, sit-ups, stand-ups, and leg lifts, and took off his pants. Looking at the blue swimming trunks on Shen Er's body with cute anime girl designs, he let out a cold sigh. This guy's swimsuit style is still so unique. Looking at Shen Er, who was wearing sandbags and weights on his legs, arms, and body, Lin calculated secretly that even those weights alone would at least exceed the combined weight of the two Shen Er. This guy is really becoming more and more cruel to himself. Are you not afraid of physical injury? I can't work so hard, can I? Pop it. Watching Shen Er jump into the river, even though he has witnessed many miracles, his heart still sweats for Shen Er. Don't let anything happen. There was a mistake in the number of volumes, please delete them and resend them. End of this chapter. Chapter 10, Caution 2. I thought there would be a lottery for true European ancestry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10, Caution 2. I thought that true European ancestry would have a lucky draw bonus. New book seeks various. As the sky gradually darkened, Shen Er, who had completed today's physical training and daily tasks, lay on the riverbank, panting heavily while constantly complaining in his heart. Nima, every time the daily mission arrives, this dog system seals all of her abilities as a sorcerer, exhausted to the point where she has no strength left to land. Son, this is all for the sake of my own good. Only by enduring hardships can one become a superior person. Get lost, don't talk to me. I really don't want to hear you talk. So, considering the lottery feature, even my grandson doesn't want to activate it anymore. Anyway, I won't be able to do it. What are you talking about? I have always been flattered to be able to talk to you. Call out Grandpa Humph. What kind of person do you treat me as? Shen Er snorted in his heart and slowly reached the shore, holding on to the shore. Do you think I, an African, would give up the lottery function because of that little bit of dignity? No, that's okay, okay. Grandpa. Shen Er, lying on the lawn, looked at the lottery interface on the system page. Lottery rule. Refresh once a month for free opportunities. In addition, a maximum of 10 points can be drawn per month. The first time you score 100 points, the second time you multiply by 10, the third time you multiply by 10, and so on. P.S. 10 consecutive draws must produce an epic. The chance of free gifts is likely not to be shipped. Slot. Looking at this final P.S., Shen Er cursed inwardly, what a pit. There is no system article I have read in my past life that is as flawed as my own system. The task reward is pitifully low, not to mention, the lottery is still so pitfalls. After roughly scanning the prizes on the turntable, Shen Er found that they were mostly items with around a few hundred points in the points mall. After sighing lightly, Shen Er clicked the start button. 3 seconds later, looking at the bottle of brain debris pointed at by the pointer, Shen Er couldn't help but twitch from the corner of his eyes. Sun Tzu, are you still drawing? There are still 111 points left. You can draw twice. Looking at the lottery wheel that clearly had a few more high-end items than before, Shen Er, who was trembling in his heart, clicked on the start with his mind. Watching the 100 points deducted in an instant, Shen Er could only describe his feelings with a drop of blood in his heart. 3 seconds later, looking at the brain fragment pointed at by the pointer, Shen Er suddenly had an impulse to slap himself. I have a true European ancestry in my life. This is unreasonable. Do you still smoke? I have a premonition that you will definitely be able to smoke rare items next time. Give you a head. Stop smoking. Go home, go home. Stop playing. Are you not satisfied with what you have drawn? You can resell it to the point store. Shen Er suddenly became interested. One bottle of brain fragments sold for 100 points in the mall, and even if the depreciation price of 2 bottles was 20% off, he could still earn 60 points. How much depreciation is it? Shen Er asked with some anticipation. 30% off, pop. Shen Er's promise of slapping him just now was finally fulfilled. Shen Er roughly wiped off the moisture on the surface of his body with a towel in his bag. He was about to put on his clothes, but a corner of his eye suddenly caught sight of Sakura standing on the riverbank above his head. Have you finished watching High Jump yet? Shen Er thought in his heart that the plot of FSN was finally about to begin, with only 4 years left until the next Holy Grail war and only 4 years left for the main mission. I have no choice but to work hard and prepare myself. The main quest is mandatory and comes with penalties. If you fail to complete it, there is a 90% chance of becoming a vegetative, and you dare not gamble on that 10% chance. On the other side, watching Shen Er slowly leave in the distance, and Sakura following behind Shen Er, Lin also turned his back and quietly left towards the two of them. By the way, at this time, the taxi driver was still jumping high on the playground. And it hasn't been skipped yet. Time is like anyway, 2.5 years have passed. 4 months ago, Shen Er, who was promoted to the same high school as Shilang, Suichuan Yuan College, had a similar life as junior high school. However, the high school teacher, Fujimura Ohei, the good neighbor and sister of Shiro whom I had already known since middle school, was clearly not on the same level as the middle school teacher Yuko. The resentment of frequently skipping classes can be said to be profound. Every time, he would chase Shen Er like a real tiger and run across the entire campus just to make him correct. Every class roll call is also exceptionally simple, only calling Shen Er's name. If someone responds, it means everyone is here today. If no one responds, they will secretly note it down and use force indiscriminately when they see Shen Er again. However, it's still of little use. Skipping classes has become a part of Shen Er's life. Of course, Shen Er has also undergone some changes, such as reaching 1.73 meters in height and focusing on 1.67 meters in the complete abuse setting, or learning swordsmanship with Fujimura Ohei for half a year. For example, for a common task, I went to Ludong Temple to follow the host for 3 months of hard work, and as a result, I met Ludong Yicheng before entering high school. It is said that after Shen Er's asceticism, 10% of his father, the muscular male host, even tearfully wanted Shen Er to stay, because he had never seen a child who worked so hard, could endure hardship, and was exceptionally talented. Shen Er wanted to tell him that he was prompted by the system, but ultimately gave up. However, as a result, the relationship between Shen Er and Yicheng is quite good. Of course, this was before entering high school. After entering high school, 10% of the students in the student union are also the top leaders who are arrested every day and criticized for being cautious in education. Perhaps they can only be considered as the second leader. Also, there are more and more stocks in the second-hand market nowadays. Bug Yi has basically abandoned his only hobby of stock trading and has given it all to Shen Er. Compared to Yi, Shen Er is better at these things, and the profits are also terrifyingly high. For Shen Er, after all, these are still his own money in the future. How can he not manage them well? With some memories and experiences from his past life combined with the actual situation in this world, in just a few years, Shen Er has already doubled the price of the stocks he obtained by an unknown number of times. I secretly established a holding company and officially became the president of a company, investing in various projects and starting to operate industries, such as the largest amusement park in Dongmu City, which is about to start construction this month. As for the affairs of the spiritual land of the Jian Tong family across the country, it is basically still Hai's help to take care of it. However, Rao Shen Er helped his father share a lot of pressure, and the cheap father still got drunk all day due to excessive pressure. Over the years, Shen Er has advised He to drink less alcohol more than once, but it has been of no use. He still gets drunk all night. Later on, Shen Er was too lazy to speak up. In the summer of 2002, early September, the summer vacation had just ended. There is less than a year and a half left until the 5th Holy Grail War. During the summer vacation, Shen Er, who had a busy schedule, still couldn't stop after the start of school, except for skipping classes for a week after going to school on the day of enrollment. Just as Shen Er was busy dealing with various tasks, he was suddenly invited out by Shilang in the scorching summer, in a coffee shop in Dongmu City. Looking at the Shilang sitting opposite him in a cast on his right hand, Shen Er suddenly remembered something he had forgotten about his recent busyness. This cargo seems to have been injured at this time. I clearly reminded Shilang to pay attention to safety when working before, but it's really fate. I sent it backwards, deleted it and sent it again. Sorry for the mistake in the number of rolls. End of this chapter.